Roddy Frame and Aztec Camera Oblivious. Thanks for your company. We've got this new research by the Institute for Physical Studies has found that the proportion of adult children aged 25 to 34 still living with their parents has increased by more than a third in the last 20 years. Those with lower incomes, they're more likely to be living at home. And the rise of recent decades has been, in quotes, fueled by higher rents and soaring house prices. In Scotland, listen to this, I was briefed about this last night. In Scotland, the average rent has risen to £991 a month. It goes up to £1,400 a month in and around Edinburgh. The price of buying a house is up by 4.7%. But what is this effect this had on family dynamics, and how should you handle it when your children stay at home into adulthood? Let's talk to Moira Cormack, Aaron Gibson, who's 22 and lives at home with his mum and dad, and the author of All Grown Up, Nurturing Relationships with Adult Children, Celia Dodd. Have I got that right? Celia Dodd. Business, it's spelled here Ceila. Sorry, Moira first. You're a mum of 4. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Yeah, lovely day.
Is it? Have you got a couple of kids at home?
I have 3 at home, yes.
How old are they?
The eldest is 27, and the middle one is 24, and the youngest is 18.
And they just love you so much.
But I don't think that's solely the reason they're at home. It seems to me that as children kind of make their way out into the world, it's not that they go in one fell swoop. It's going, learning, and then landing back where it's safe, regrouping, because going out into the world can be challenging, emotionally challenging, financially challenging, friendship challenging. You know, there's all sorts of things that you have to learn and bring together all in one go. And sometimes you get tired and you need to go home and regroup and recharge before you can go back out into the world. And obviously, from the financial point of view, it's cheaper to be at home, even if you contributed a little bit. It's much cheaper food and rent-wise than it is. It's useful for everybody to be together, and it's much cheaper, as you say, than renting property. Yeah.
So do the 2? Did you say the 2 that live with you, or 3 that live with you? Do they pay a little bit, but you cook and clean for them? Do you?
No, I do not cook and clean.
Okay.
That I think to me is the joy of having adult children. So when they were very little, obviously I cooked and cleaned and ran after all their needs. And sometimes you're just too busy to totally enjoy them. And for me, one of the wonderful things about them being adults is that I really get to just cherish and relish their growth, their emotional growth, the way they take on challenges, the way they see the world. And because I'm not doing all of that in the same way they cook, they shop, they help out completely. It's a team effort. I haven't stayed in the sort of authoritarian sort of mother position. I'm not 100% sure I ever really occupied it. But it's been a much sort of flatter hierarchy in that sense. I really believe in empowering children, and they now also look after me with a great deal of love and care. It's quite a wonderful thing to have them at home. It's really healing in a great many ways.
Aaron Gibson, hello to you.
Hello.
22 years old, live at home with your mum and dad.
That's it, yep.
Your choice?
No, I'd love to move out. I'd love to get my own kind of property that I could buy or rent, but you're just priced out of the rental market. You can't afford to buy a house. The market isn't really tailored towards first-time buyers.
How do you feel about it? I mean, without being daft, I'm an old man now, 67. I remember my first salary was £4,000 a year, helping to build the Edinburgh City bypass. But I just rented a flat in Edinburgh, I think, for £10 a week. And you could buy properties you could only borrow 2.5 times your salary back in the day. So I couldn't have bought a house that was worth more than 20, 30,000. But for you to try and buy a house as a multiple of your income now would be what?
Oh, I don't even know, John. It'd be a silly amount. I mean, I'd say I earn quite a good amount a year, but even at that, it's just impossible. You know, you're trying to save for deposits. You know, you put an offer down on a house, say, and someone's already offered 20, 30,000 more than what the house is worth. And you just can't do that as a first-time buyer. As well as trying to scrape together the deposit, you've got to have money to buy furniture for the house, to try and do renovations to the house. You know, it's not just the deposit and buying the house itself, it's everything that comes with it. It's really sad.
Is it? Do you find it sad that you
Yeah, I'd say it's really sad and depressing, really. You know, I work really hard and I have a really professional job, and I'm still living with my parents. I'm not able to have my own place. You almost feel guilty sometimes for coming in late, even though I'm 22 years old, coming in late sometimes. And, you know, mum's like, oh, where have you been? Are you all right? Worrying about you. And just not being able to have that freedom that, you know, my parents had and my grandparents had when they were my age.
So has living at home had an effect on all of you?
Yeah, I'd say it's changed our relationship. I mean, my parents absolutely love me being at home. They love the company, but I feel like I'm almost a lodger now, and that sometimes, you know, we're having arguments or stuff because I'm still at home or I'm frustrated or they're frustrated. I'd say it has put a strain on our relationship.
Celia, hello.
Hi.
Relationship expert. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, isn't it? That I always think there must be something innate in humans and animals where we, after a certain time, you feel the need to fly the nest or maybe even be shoved out the nest by the adults. Do relationships come under strain when youngsters stay at home, do you think?
Yeah, I think they can come under strain. Obviously, because it's hard to get out of the child role, and it's hard to get out of being their mum and dad. And in a way, you've got to move on from that. So yeah, I think there is a strain, but I think it's become such the norm now. This is the reality now for the younger generation, that they have to live at home. So in a way, you sort of got to see it in a positive light. And I think there are many positives, as Moira said, living with your adult children, as long as you treat them as adults. I think Aaron said something very interesting about, mum worrying about him coming home at night. I mean, that was a big thing for me, and how you get over that, I'm not quite sure, but that, I think basically you've just got to start seeing each other in a new light, and adult children have got to pull their weight, as Moira's kids clearly do. And that's to do with sort of when the washing machine breaks down, helping, sort that out. It isn't just about cooking and cleaning. And by the same token, parents have got to see their kids as, they're not quite lodgers, but they're kind of, as self-sufficient, see them as independent, even though they're living under their own, the same roof. And so that's extremely difficult. But I think if you, can see the positives, that you are getting to know each other as adults, and, they're adults, you're adult, that you're getting to see them in this whole different way. And I think that sets the relationship on a really good setting for the rest of your lives together. Because after all, relationships with our kids last much longer than just the empty nest.
Because when they're young, you're in control because it's bath time or it's bedtime and it's meal time. How do you discuss it then as a family? How should each side communicate any kind of difficult feelings they have?
Well, I think it's really good to I mean, obviously not do it when you're cross and, or angry, to take a few minutes, just to think about it and then bring things up when you're calmer. And I think it's a really good idea to meet outside the home, don't, because, you're on top of each other and, go out for coffee, go out for a drink, whatever, or go for a walk, I think, or do something together. And then you can talk about those things and don't let niggles and resentment build up. So that I think if you can be really honest and really listen to what your adult child is saying to you and put yourself in their shoes, I think it's very easy to, to feel that they're not, maybe putting them, looking for whatever it is, looking for a job, or they're not, spending all their money on lattes or whatever people think. But I think you really have to sort of see things from their point of view and what it must be like for them.
Moira, mum of 4, emotional life coach, 3 of them still at home, 18, 24 and 27.
Well done.
well, it's called briefing. I guess you'll be good at talking to them. Do you ever have conversations? Right, we're going to sit down and discuss this.
Yes.
We do.
We do. I mean, following on from the discussion, I do think it helps that mine all left home for a while, so that when you've left home and then you've come back, you have a different appreciation for what managing a whole house and life is. But yeah, I mean, I love to talk with them, and I love to know what's going on with them, and to be there for them as well, and to watch them grow into their emotional spirit. It's not something that you necessarily think of, but as we expand into life and we go through all those experiences, I'm watching my children grow. I'm watching them cope with different things in life, and I'm full of admiration for them.
I think I grew up in an environment where you thought, I've got to leave home. I can't burden my parents anymore. I'm 22, I've finished my degree, I must go. We've got loads of texts coming in, 80295. Rachel and Dundee, we're a blended family. We've got an 18, 20, 21 and 22-year-old. Our 21 and 22-year-olds are still living at home. The 18-year-old's looking to buy a flat, and the 21-year-old's working after uni and renting a flat. Much as I love them, here we go. Much as I love them, living with adults has its challenges. It's scary. It's challenging moving to independent living, but they need to get on with it. We wrap our kids in cotton wool these days. It's not good for them. It leads to kids having no resilience as they never having to face adversity. Joy says, our daughters live with us in Stirling since doing a master's in Dundee, lived with us during COVID, started her first job during COVID, then had a year in Aberdeen before coming home because of a new post in Perth. She just bought her first home in Edinburgh. So impressed with her. She thought it was always going to be impossible. She saved. Anonymous one says, I don't understand this fixation on buying our homes. Most people on the continent are very happy to rent. I do understand, though, that rent on the continent is much more affordable. What about you then, Aaron? You're 22, so you're still young. You've got loads ahead of you, but you feel you'd rather be out there in the world, and it's maybe. I mean, you could have told me earlier it's a difficult place being at home, isn't it? When you should be, you think, in a flat.
Yeah, that's it. I think when I've got such a professional job and you've got everything else in your life going the way you want it, but it's that one kind of tie of still being at home. You almost feel like you're not quite an adult yet until you've got your own home. I would love to rent. I'll be honest, I would love to rent.
How does it affect your life then? How does this affect your life?
It affects it in lots of ways. I suppose from a social perspective, you can't have people over, you can't have friends and kind of other couples over for dinner and things like that. You can't kind of come home when you want or do what you want in a way because you've got that burden of, oh, your parents are at home, are they going to worry, are they going to be happy about doing this or that? So it affects your life in a really big way. It does hold you back, and it does almost make you feel like a burden.
Celia, and yes. Moira obviously is a life coach, and she can start up these conversations. But these aren't children, are they? These are young adults.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and as I say, you have to see them as young adults, and really talk to them. And I think Moira made a good point about having a gap and starting things afresh. Setting new expectations of how things should be, and making it discussion so that it isn't parents sort of laying down the law, or it really is agreeing on how things should be in the house, and how about having friends. And I think one way is maybe to give each other a bit of a break, go away for the weekend, and so the adult child can have their friends around, or do what they want to do, or go on holiday and let them get on with it. I think there is room to, there are practical solutions as well as kind of just talking about it.
Let me bring more briefly last word to you then. When will they know it's time to leave? Because it strikes me you love having them around.
I do love having them around, but to be fair, I'm also curious. I had 4 over 10 years, 9 years. So I've been living with children for 30 years, almost 3 decades. And so I don't think my relationships will be as day-to-day when they don't live with me. But I'm also curious about my own life. What will my life be? There's quite a lot, I feel, of adventures and openness for myself that will be different when I don't default into their company, that they're not just there to keep me company in the same way that somebody's coming through. So, what will I do? Will I become an artist? Will I become a writer? What is waiting for me in my own life? And so I think that it's all part of life, and it's all rich and interesting if you choose to see it that way, which is what I try to do.
Secretly, you want them out, don't you? It's all life out there.
The 18-year-old is at university, so she's going to be coming and going for quite a bit. And one of the others is going to head off traveling for a few months before coming back. I think there are a few years where they will go and land home and go and land back home and regroup, and that's okay. I want them to make sure that they're on two solid feet as they set out in their own lives. And if they need to come home and regroup, I'm always here for them.
Have you ever thought of applying for Mother of the Year?
I don't think it would be up to me to choose to do that.
But obviously, you want, Aaron, we all want to grow up in families full of love and understanding, don't we? But you hinted that the real issue, there is a whole thing about, it's nice to stay at home. And earlier on, we had this conversation about the NHS where some callers were saying we've kind of ditched the elderly to some extent. The elderly have been binned into care, and people don't want to live in their houses with them, the family. But part of being in a family is that in the olden days, we'd live together as a unit much longer. But nowadays, because things are so damned expensive, the house prices are so expensive, and rents of £1,400 a month in Edinburgh, it's so expensive. It's just not within anyone's gift, Erin, is it, to move out?
I think there's a whole new attitude to independence, actually, now. I think people are seeing independence as, that you become an independent adult much older, officially, I think it's into your 29. I think that's quite interesting. Different cultures have different attitudes to independent adults. And I think we can learn a lot. I think, independence is great, but as Moira says, it's great if it's supported. I think the most successful young adults have got the support of their parents always behind them.
So it's normal. I know I'm jumping in here, but as usual, we run out of time. So it's normal. And this idea that you should get out of the house at 22, that's not right.
Well, I don't think I don't think either is not right. I don't think there's right and wrong, but I think there's different ways of seeing things, and that as new, this is the new reality for so many people. I think it needs to be seen as not a bad thing, as a positive thing. Although it's always good to set a time limit on it. Sure. That it's not going to last forever.
Aaron, we've got 40 seconds left. With Moira's hoping for life after her children leave. What do you want? What do you see as your future, Aaron?
I want to be able to buy my own house, and I want my parents to feel like they can do as they want to when I'm not in the house. So, hopefully what's been said, it's maybe the case I need to have that conversation with them, speak to them outside the house, and kind of come up with a plan on what we can do going forward, so we both have our independence whilst I'm still at home.
Okay, thank you very much indeed to Moira Cormack, mum of 4, an emotional life coach, and Aaron Gibson, who's 22, lives at home with his mum and dad, and Celia Dodd, author of All Grown Up, Nurturing Relationships with Adult Children.